Hi, welcome back to my channel, and this is an interesting video. I'm going to be talking about how you can quit your job and sell yourself back to your employer for 3 times the amount of what your original salary was. So I'm doing this video because I've had an experience myself, but also I've got several members in my group that I mentor that have had this happen. So this is when, if you are in a job, say you're working for a school or the probation service, or maybe you're a counsellor or doing some kind of therapy, of people that were doing a job, they devised a way of working with young people. They thought, actually, do you know what? This would be a really good CIC. They quit their job, left, set up the CIC, and then their employer was like, but that work was really great, really impactful. Actually, we'll give you a contract. And then they sell themselves back to their employer for 3 times the amount of what their original pay was. Plus, they're able to then go and get grant funding and expand what they do. So I'm going to be talking about that in this video. It's a really good one. Please hit the subscribe button if you like it and if you want any more information on community interest companies and social enterprises and grant funding and all of that. So I have a membership on this YouTube which you can hit if you want to take it up a notch. If you like these videos, you want to see some more in-depth ones about actually how I write grant funds and how I get all of this different money in for CICs, then this membership is for you, so go and hit that. If you're interested in setting up a CIC and you want to know more about my CIC setup packages or my mentoring memberships, then go over to my website. The link is in the description. So that aside, let's get into it. So I had a message this week from one of the ladies that I mentor, and they were doing some work in a school. They devised some fantastic therapy work, and they were able to quit their jobs and actually able to then sell themselves back to that school for 3 times the amount of what their original pay was. And this also happened to me as well. So I devised, when I was a probation officer, a RAP therapy program. So that RAP therapy program was something that I did as a probation officer. It went really well. One of my colleagues was like, that would make a really good CIC. You should go off and do that. So that's when I went and I launched my CIC. This was back in 2012. I then was able to do the same work I was essentially doing as a probation officer for 3 times the amount by getting grant funding. So that's 2 examples, one with mine where I was able to go and get grant funding, and I did get various different contract work as well from like social services and various different schools, but mainly I was grant funded. And there's an example of one of my students who was actually able to sell themselves back to the employer that originally they had the job with that they quit. So that's a fantastic example. And this could absolutely happen to you. So how would you leverage yourself? How would you pull something like this off? So first of all, if you are in one of these jobs, like I said, if you're a youth worker, probation officer, some kind of one-to-one work, and you're doing some kind of life coaching, some kind of training where you're trying to get a person from point A to point B. And you've thought outside the block. So you're in this job, you're thinking outside the box, you've devised your own program, which has come from your head. Okay, this is not something your manager has told you to go and do. So you've devised something yourself and you're doing this and it's going fantastic. And you're noticing massive results. You're getting great impact. These people that you're working with, your participants, whether it be young people or adults or whoever, they are getting results. They are changing their lives. And your employer, your boss may have noticed this, but what will happen if you go and you ask your boss initially, just for a pay rise or whatever, they won't give it to you. It's not in their sort of structure. They just want you to work, do your job, be brilliant, and just give you a pay slip. Well, that's not really good enough, because what you've designed has come from your head. So you need to know your value. And I have told people this many times. I've had lots of people, like teachers, for instance, who've devised this amazing work with students. Again, they've done it in their spare time, come up with it, it's come out of their head. And then their bosses have been like, this is amazing. We're going to show you off to Ofsted and we're going to, send you to other schools. But then when that person's been like, well, actually, I'd actually quite like to be paid for that work as like a consultant or, something else like that. suddenly the bosses shrivel in their seats, and it's like, oh, well, no, this is, and they want to get all the glory from it, and they don't want to pay that person any more than what is their standard salary. That is not right, and you must know your value. You should not be, if you are working for an employer, you should not be designing something and then just giving it to them for free. You must own it. You must know your value. Once you've basically designed something that is impactful and is good, and everyone's recognized that it's good, you then quit your job, you start a CIC, and you then go back to those employers and say, this is what I'm charging. And you charge 3 times the amount. The reason why you charge 3 times the amount is because you are then having your own business, so you've got to cover other costs. So it's not just your hourly rate to go in and deliver a session, it's your development, it's your developing the resources, it's all that time and energy that you're putting into creating these services, these products, these resources. So that is a bigger thing, and you need to make sure you charge what you are worth for that. And when you are at that point, just to give you a ballpark figure, you should be selling yourself back at around £600 a day, because that is the standard rate for a project manager in this country, around £600 a day. If you are employed on, say, a teaching salary, so say you're on around 30k or whatever, obviously you're getting paid, your daily rate, your hourly rate, I think, is around sort of 16 to 20 pound, I think is roughly the sort of figure. So you are only being paid to just work those hours, and on top of what your pay is, the expenditure that your employer has to employ you would include other things like HR, IT, your desk space, like all your sick pay, your other rights and all that, and all this other stuff. So when your employer employs you, they're not just paying for your pay, they're paying for all this other stuff. So actually the cost of hiring you isn't like a 30k salary, it's really more like an 80k salary, okay? Because it adds all those levels in, like supervising you, all of that stuff, HR, all of it. So it's around 8k, that's the cost of you and your desk and everything. So when you sell yourself back, you don't sell yourself back for the same amount that you used to get in a pay slip. You sell yourself back at what it cost you as an employee, because all of that now is being handled by you in your company. So if you think about it, you're now your supervisor, your HR, your IT, your own desk space in your home, or you've hired an office and you've got an office. So you're charging for all of that as well, and that's why you're now £600 a day. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope that gives some inspiration, and I hope it really inspires some of you, because I know so many of you out there are doing amazing work for your employers and are doing incredible, impactful stuff. But know your worth and make sure you go back and you argue that, and you can explain what I've said to them as well. You can explain, this is why I now cost this. And there's plenty of resources out there, and we've got plenty in our membership that you can use to actually give to an employer and say, and this is how you negotiate a contract. Hope that helps. If it does, please hit the like button, and also go over to my website and check out the resources over there.